He turned and walked away the moment he saw her hearing aids. The restaurant's Christmas light kept spilling across the tablecloths, warm, indifferent, while a small fracture opened between Mia and the man who had been sitting opposite her. For a breath that lasted like winter, she sat very still, fingers resting on the rim of her glass, watching the space his shadow left behind. A title card appears, Christmas Miracle, How Two Little Girls Changed a Deaf Woman's Lonely Date. Mia adjusted the tiny magnetic clip of her hearing aid and let it settle. She wore a soft coat, a scarf with a pattern of small holly leaves, and a look people sometimes misread as reticence. She was in her 30s, perhaps early 40s, hands sure and practiced, the kind of hands that had learned to carry more than one language. Tonight she had come with hope. She had hoped, briefly and carefully, that conversation would reach her across a table as easily as the candlelight did. The restaurant hummed with mid-December warmth. Outside, pedestrians hurried beneath garlands and the scent of roasted chestnuts. Inside, the low undercurrent of voices and clinking cutlery. The smell of cinnamon seemed to hang in the air like a promise. But for Mia, the evening folded into a quiet ache she had learned to keep at bay. Years of people leaning in without thinking, of smiles that never quite landed, of the small, unnoticed refusals that collect until they weigh more than a single night. You don't need a long story to know what loneliness feels like. You can see it in hands. Mia massaged her thumb along the lip of her cup, tracing the same circle she traced in private when the world felt too loud, or, in her case, too much about sound. She could sign fluently, read lips when the light allowed, and move through spaces with practiced assurance. Still, there are moments that expose the seam between being included and being overlooked. When the man rose and left without a word, the seam showed. But then something tiny happened that would change everything. At the next table sat two identical little girls, no more than 6, each with a red bow like a punctuation mark in their hair. They were finishing a shared slice of pie, their knees tucked under the booth, whispering to each other in the kind of language only twins seem to share. The mother at their side checked her phone, distracted by the inventory of holiday tasks in her head. The twins glanced up, and their eyes found Mia, then lingered on the space where the man had left. They didn't know what rejection is in full, but they knew the shape of upset. One of them nudged the other, and their hands made small, deliberate shapes. They used the few simple signs they'd been taught at preschool, basic ASL phrases, half-remembered, earnest. Their hands were clumsy and perfect. "Can we sit?" the caption reads as their tiny fingers form the question. Slow, careful, the kind of signing that travels purely through intention. The mother looks up, surprised, then follows their gaze to Mia. She studies Mia's hands for a second, her fingers, the hearing aids, and then, without drama, nods. She shrugs a mother's permission and returns to her own fragile list of errands. Mia watches them approach. For a moment, she thinks she might be misreading kindness for pity. The reflex to protect herself is quick. She closes her fingers into a loose fist against the table, breath steadying. Then the girls slide into the vacant chair like they have been saving it all afternoon. One of them reaches across and places a small paper star on the table, an offering more valuable than its size. Her hands are warm. Her face is open. There is no hesitation in the way she signs the next question. "Are you alone?" their fingers ask, animated as only children can be. The caption appears gently on screen, timed with their movement. The restaurant's background sounds drop an octave as the camera lingers on the hands and faces. The visuals should carry the translation. The two girls' mouths form words, but their voices are quiet. They listen with their eyes. Mia feels something like surprise, and then, in a softer, more surprising way, relief. She answers in sign, simple and direct. "I came hoping to meet someone." She points at the empty chair, the gesture bridging the space of a broken expectation. Her signs are precise. Her face carries the grammar of ASL, eyebrows that lift, shoulders that shift. The girls giggle at her expression, delighted by the meeting someone idea, as if it were a game. They announce with dramatic conviction that they are excellent company. The mother approaches more fully now, curiosity and a growing tenderness pressing into her features. She watches without knowing the language, but she watches close enough to learn. Her phone stays in her pocket. Across the room, a waitress whose hands are accustomed to balancing plates pauses, tray halfway, eyes softening. The conversation that follows is small and luminous. The girls sign about their favorite ornaments, about the snowman they built earlier that week, about the song their teacher taught them, jingle bells acted out with clapping and the kind of out-of-time rhythm children think is funny. Mia answers with stories that are spare and vivid. A memory of a cardboard star she once taped to a window, the way light looked through it, how she used to press her palm to the glass and feel the city move. Laughter spills from the table like sunshine through glass. At no point does anyone rescue Mia. She is not a passive figure to be saved. She is the one who invites the girls to try new signs, who corrects a hand shape with a teasing squint, who teaches them a way to sign fun that makes both girls erupt into more giggles. The exchange is reciprocal. Empathy is modeled as something children already know how to do. Their mistakes in signing, bent wrists where straight ones were needed, words formed with too much flourish, are met with correction and applause. The mother begins to mimic small shapes, hands awkward in the syntax of a foreign language, and Mia guides her without condescension. Inclusion becomes a choreography everyone learns together. Across the room, other diners start to notice. The waitress sets down a cup without a sound, then lingers to watch fingers flutter like paper snow. A man with a newspaper softens his gaze. The camera should hold on these small reactions. A napkin folded and then forgotten, the silver spoon frozen mid-air. These moments map the way a private kindness can gently reorient a public space. When the twins sign Merry Christmas, their faces explode into pride at the way their hands have been understood. The caption blooms on screen, Merry Christmas! And then one of them climbs up and wraps her small arms around Mia's neck in a hug that is all at once brave and unburdened. The hug is the story's hinge. It is tactile proof that someone chose to see her. Mia's hands, usually so contained, respond like a door swinging open. Her fingers rest on the girl's back, then squeeze lightly, an emphatic punctuation. For the first time in a long while, the pressure in her chest shifts from a heavy stone to something that breathes. No thunderclap of heaven, no miraculous cure. The miracle here is human and proportional, yet vast in outcome. The restoration of being recognized. It is the kind of change that doesn't make headlines, but changes the course of an evening, perhaps a week, perhaps a life. Mia's shoulders drop. Her smile, private at first, spreads outward. The mother wipes her eyes with a napkin and smiles in a way that looks like apology and gratitude braided together. The man who left returns, a little sheepish, perhaps reconsidering. He notices the tableau. Two girls hugging a stranger, hands moving, eyes shining, and pauses at the edge of the scene. He does not intrude. The world rearranges itself around the act of attention. Barriers soften when someone else points, without fanfare, to the basic fact of another person's worth. Mia gathers her coat at the end of the night differently than she had at the start. The coat's collar feels lighter, as if it carries less of the cold she had brought with her. Her steps out onto the sidewalk match the rhythm of the city lights, and the air tastes of the season. In her pocket is a small paper star, folded by one of the twins, a keepsake that is less object than witness. She has been given, in a handful of minutes, what many spend an entire holiday trying to conjure, to be seen and accepted in the ordinary exchange of a meal. As the narrator, watching close but never intrusive, it's worth saying plainly, this is a Christmas miracle not because it defies nature, but because it reminds us that belonging can be rebuilt by hands. Two little girls, with limited signs and unlimited heart, shifted the evening's center of gravity. They turned a moment of rejection into a table where 3 people and a mother could belong. The miracle is human scale and immediate, a reconnection to warmth. If this story resonates with you and you believe small kindnesses matter, please like this video. The restaurant empties gradually. Plates are buzzed, soft carols tick over the speakers. Mia walks away with a different posture, neither triumphant nor emotionally altered by a single act into something else, but subtly repaired, the way fabric is mended so the tear stops catching. The mother and her daughters remain at their table, talking in that careful, gestural way that has new vocabulary now. The waitress, sweeping up, hums under her breath with an echo of the evening's gentle choreography. Outside, the city keeps its busy, glittering pace. But somewhere between the lights and the people who hurry past, a ripple began. It will not fix every loneliness or undo all the ways people are overlooked. It will, however, stand as an example of how small, deliberate kindness can create a space for someone to be seen. The camera pulls back to the restaurant window, lights blurring into soft stars, and the narrator closes with an invitation rather than a conclusion. Consider who needs a seat at your table this season. A word or a gesture can be the difference between a night remembered with the sting of being passed over and one tucked into memory as a kind of grace. If this touched you, share this story and tell us in the comments about a time a small kindness made a big difference in your life. Type "Kindness Makes Miracles" if you agree, and subscribe for more true-feeling stories that remind us how much 2 small hands can change a world. Mia pauses one last time on the sidewalk, the paper star folded in her palm. She presses it to her heart, breath visible in the cold night, and then continues on, lighter, steadier, carrying a quiet proof that, on a thin December evening, a little human attention can be a miracle enough.